Hi everyone, and welcome to Media EQ, the show where I talk about things I find interesting, and lucky for you, I'm cool enough to record it. Welcome to our love episode. I'm just kidding. They'd have to like you in order to love you, and they don't even like you. A little harsh, I know, but stay with me, everyone. I've been thinking about talking about love and relationships and romance. Even before I started this talk show, I was like, I have to sit down with these people and we need to talk all things love and the conversations surrounding love. And what brought me to this topic is literally social media. Being of the generation of social media, online users, the chronically online, as they like to call us, it is impossible for me to navigate those social media spaces and not see conversations about love and relationships. It's probably the same for you if you are of the same age tier. You get on social media, there's someone telling you something about love, romance, and relationships, right? There's a podcast, there's a new Netflix show, there's some new celebrity group telling you something about their love and their relationship, thus making you compare your love and your relationships and your own life. It can be very overwhelming. So I definitely wanted to sit down and throw my hat in the ring in the conversation because I find that maybe, just maybe, we're overcomplicating the conversation entirely. When have we ever stopped to really just ask ourselves, does this person even like me? I mean, there's so many clues and tips and tricks about what you're supposed to do in order to sustain the connection, how long you're supposed to wait to text, where you should go on the date, who should pay. Does any of that matter if that person actually likes you? I don't know, but we'll explore that today. So I have my handy dandy iPad. Oop, you didn't even know it was here. So I'd like to share this perspective that I found online from Mind and Body Counseling Associates, and it reads as follows. Social media has made us more aware of the lives of our loved ones. It helps improve communication and to stay connected to people near and far. But at the same time, it can also cause relationship issues if not used responsibly. When I saw this online, responsibly is what stood out to me as the operative word here in this perspective, in this statement. Are we using social media responsibly? Now, there's going to be a lot of different opinions on what it means to use social media responsibly, but if you really had to think about your well-being and mental health, which is like my lane, so it's where I'm going to talk about comparison. That's like a big deal when it comes down to social media. We are often following people that we know, some people that we don't know, some people that we'd like to know, and we are only ever getting the glimpse of the life that they choose to show us. Social media, I'm sure you've heard this phrase, or maybe if you haven't, I'm going to share it with you today. Social media is like a highlight reel of all your best moments. Typically, people are not posting themselves looking bad, or they're not posting themselves doing bad. They're not telling you about the stories of where they were in their house like sad, depressed, can't clean, things are falling apart, the kids aren't doing good, oh, the divorce might be happening. People aren't typically sharing those aspects of their lives. People are going to tell you about, oh my goodness, my son won the soccer game. I just got my PhD. I just got a new job. Look at my hot new partner, right? And when we're seeing those things constantly, it can really make us believe that everybody is living this perfect life, and then we are falling into this realm of comparison when we look at our own lives. That doesn't seem responsible, especially when it comes down to love and relationships. Love and relationships are such an intimate practice. This is supposed to be the connection that you have with another person that you have decided is worthy enough for you to explore life with. To then compare your connection to somebody else's connection that you really know nothing about, and maybe try to make tweaks and changes to your own dynamic because you want it to be more like that dynamic that you saw online, doesn't seem responsible. To take in a lot of information all day long from other people's opinions who've never met you, who are different age groups than you, who have different experiences in life than you, who have different perspectives on love and relationships than you, doesn't seem responsible if you then take that consumption and apply it to your own life. It's one thing to hear things, it's another thing to hear things and then digest them enough to feel like, oh, that must now be my life too. When we think back to the Mind and Body Counseling Associates statement about using social media responsibly and how when not used responsibly, it can cause relationship issues, it starts to make you wonder how many of us are not navigating the world of social media, the social media space, in a responsible way, and how is that unresponsible use affecting our personal connections with our loved ones. I would like to talk about the phrase, if they wanted to, they would. If you are in the social media world, it is hard to endure the conversations of love and relationships and not have the conversation of if they wanted to, they would. So for those of you who have never heard this statement, It essentially means if I like you, I should show you that I like you. If you like me, you should show me that you like me. If we don't like each other, perhaps we should stay away from one another. However, I would like to counter that the phrase doesn't necessarily take in the complexity of individuals. If they wanted to take me on a date, they would take me on a date. What if they can't afford to? If they wanted to, they would. What if they live in another state? If they wanted to, they would. What if they're like neurodivergent and talking to people makes them feel uncomfortable? You see what I'm saying? It kind of misses the mark when we, again, on social media, only take into consideration the highlight reel of someone's life. If they wanted to, they would, because I saw them posting on social media and XYZ, they looked good doing this. Yes, and perhaps there are other factors that are impeding their ability to would if they could. However, I would also like to counter, getting too caught up in the excuses of things is also not using social media or relationships in love responsibly. If they wanted to, they would. There should be the basic requirement that if a person likes you and you are to pursue something serious with them, they should put forth some effort to show you that the connection is not one-sided. Now, that is going to look different depending on each person's dynamic, so you'll have to figure out where the rules and the boundaries apply for you specifically, but don't get caught up too much on the excuses of things. So speaking of if they wanted to, they would, I'd like to share with you some examples of people throughout history who wanted to, and honey, they did. First up, we have Helen of Troy. So many of you have probably heard about the war in Troy, and if you haven't, I'll share a little bit with you right now. So the Trojan horse, like the guys, they hid in the horse, and then the horse was pulled into Troy, and then the soldiers jumped out and like slayed everybody, period. Did you know it was behind a woman? In fact, her name was Helen, and she was reported to be the daughter of Zeus. She was also reported to be so beautiful that she had many suitors. Oh my goodness, girl, I can't relate, period, twin. And one of her suitors was a man named Menelaus. So Menelaus was like top of the top in this dynamic of people pursuing Helen, because Helen actually marries Menelaus. But sadly, my boy Menelaus did have a loss when my girl Helen decided to cheat on him with the Prince of Troy. But Menelaus said, listen, I fought the good fight and I surpassed so many men for your affection to the point where I married you. I put a ring on your finger and you're gonna leave me for this bum dude over there in Troy? We don't even go to Troy, okay? What are you talking about? So what he decides to do is he decides to start a full war where him and his homeboys, they got on a horse, they built this wooden horse, got into it, invaded the city of Troy, came out swords ablazing, and slayed everybody in order to get his girl back. If they wanted to, they would. We got JFK, John F. Kennedy, right, the former president, and Marilyn Monroe. Remember her? Bad girl. We love her. We love Marilyn Monroe over here. If they wanted to, they would. JFK was married to Jackie Kennedy, his wife, and it was allegedly, that he had an ongoing steamy affair with Marilyn Monroe. And so steamy, in fact, that on his birthday party with his wife literally sitting next to him, Miss Marilyn came on the stage in a little slinky slink dress and sang the president happy birthday. But girl, she didn't just sing it like happy birthday to you, happy birthday, yes, all right, keep up the good work, Mr. Pratt. No, she got on that stage and she was happy birthday. She sang him a song, and so much to the point where everybody in the audience was like, she don't see Jackie right there? She don't see Jackie right there? Do you think the president told her, hey, cut the noise, my wife right here? Remember, he's the president of the United States. He got security galore. He could have tapped one of them and was like, get her out of here. Get her, girls. No, he didn't do that. Why? Because if they wanted to, they would. Wife and all. Let's continue. Speaking of wife and all, I'll tell you about the story of Laci Peterson. You heard her name before? I would bet some of you have. There's a Netflix special on her, and there's been a lot of coverage on her case. Laci Peterson was a pregnant wife, married to Mr. Scott Peterson. I don't know if I should call him Mr. once I tell you what he did. Scott Peterson, that man over there. Scott Peterson, she was married to. And Mr. Scott, why did I call him Mr. Scott again? I'm just so polite. I'm just like from the South. But that man, Scott, had a mistress. I don't know her name. Who cares about her name, right? He had a mistress and he really liked her. But his wife was about to have a baby. And guess what? That baby was impeding on the dynamic that Scott Peterson saw for him and his mistress. So what did Scott do? He killed his wife, made it look like a kidnapping, had a whole bunch of people out there searching for her, and you know he didn't even help. If you gonna kill your wife and make it look like a kidnapping, you at least gotta go look for her. I use this example to showcase, again, if they wanted to, they would. This man was married and had a baby on the way, but loved his mistress so much, he got rid of his wife. Now, these are some extreme cases. If they wanted to, they would, but I used them to showcase the idea. If this person really liked you? Do you feel like they should put some sort of effort towards showing you that they like you? Complexity about the person aside, what they're going through aside, don't you think that they should show some sort of effort to let you know, hey, I like you, I'm wanting to pursue you, I want to see how far we can take this? Another hot topic on social media when it comes down to the idea of love and relationships is this idea of traditional relationships. Traditional relationships, the way they are used in these social media conversations, deal with the archetype created in like the 1950s, which is the idea that the woman is the nurturing home figure of the relationship and the man is the breadwinner who goes out and, works and contributes to the financial aspect of the home and of the relationship. And the debate seems to be this idea of whether or not we should still be in this archetype 1950s traditional dynamic of a relationship, or if we should be more modernized. This actually came about because in the 1940s, there was like a big economic crash. If you are solely listening to the audio of this episode and not watching the screen, I did want to clarify that the crash happened between 1929 and 1941. Thank you. Where people were living very much in poverty and the world was experiencing a financial low. So the 1950s kind of saw where we needed to kind of come back from that. Men were going out now and starting to make money for the home, and women were taking on the more traditional role of staying at home and rearing the children and taking care of like the home in general. It's so interesting though that we have called that the traditional role because like I mentioned before, we didn't see that. We saw women dressing differently. We saw people partying in the 1920s. The Great Gatsby era, women weren't at home in beautiful skirts with perfectly coiffed hair ironing all day. They were out there partying in the street. We saw like the Prohibition era where women were drinking, men were drinking. But it is interesting that that has become the idea of what we consider to be traditional, even though it happened as a result of a crash. And like the shift of previous decades, we as people continue to evolve. Men and women have never played the same role from decade to decade, but somehow the 1950s have landed this role of traditionalism. And we now in 2024 are looking back at them at 1950s who were doing that out of need as what we should be doing now in 2024, even though the need is different. In more recent years, women have seen more access to things like financial gain, media literacy, education, fantasy. The world has expanded for both men and women to experience different aspects of life and therefore have different needs in relationships. Now, I'm not advocating for this idea of men and women together or relationship partnership as something that we don't need in 2024 because we are smarter and because we have more access to money. No. I'm saying though, it's possible we may need to upgrade the idea of what we see as traditional. The same way in the 1950s, they created an archetype of what a functional relationship would look like in that era. Perhaps it is our duty in 2024 to make an archetype of what a functional, healthy relationship would look like in our era. How do we ensure that people together in this day and age like each other and are fulfilling the needs of today? I have some ideas. So when thinking of how we can modernize tradition, my first thought is this. It's not about who gives what, but what two people are willing to work together in order to have a successful relationship. I go back to what I spoke about in the beginning of the video about complexity of people. We all have different dynamics. We all have different needs for those dynamics. It's possible that because we have more access to education and financial gain here in 2024, we have more freedom in partnership to be able to sit down and decide how those needs are delegated. Now, I would like to bring a little bit of biology into this conversation and briefly talk about the differences between men and women. On a biological scale, men are typically stronger than women when it comes down to physicality, so they are more prone to going out and doing the rugged work, and sometimes rugged work does pay money. Men are statistically proven to make more money than women. There's huge pay discrepancies when it comes down to men and women in the workforce. Men not only have more physical autonomy to go out and make more money, they also have more of a bias toward them to give them more money in the workforce. It's possible men should go out and make some money and come to the household and let the woman be the nurturer. Because why? Women are biologically more softer and more nurturing than men. Now, I think the problem with this comes in when that is forced upon either sex. When it is forced upon men to say, hey, you're the man, so therefore you should. Or you're the woman, therefore you should. I think there don't have to be extremes. There are so many people who are out there telling men and women who they should be because they are men and women, or on the flip side are saying you don't have to be any of those things because you can decide who you want to be in this world. I feel like we should kind of meet in the middle. We would be remiss to ignore biology completely. At the end of the day, a man is going to be more physically stronger than a woman, okay? That's just, I don't know, I don't make the rules. That's just really how it is. Also too, I saw a study, women require like more sleep and like more rest time than a man does. So even in those regards, like the biology of men and women should probably spend less time really roughing it. When it comes down to 9 to 5 hustling out there just to make ends meet, I don't want to assign that to a woman. I don't necessarily want to assign that to a man either, because I don't feel like anyone should struggle. I don't think really as people we were meant to work, like we were meant to like be in life and like enjoy life. But because again, we are in this modernized day and age where money is required in order to make the world go round, somebody has to go make the money. And on a biological scale, men are more prone or more physically fit to go out there and to bring home the bacon, so to speak. And women are more biologically fit to be more nurturing and to be more resting and to be more at home. However, with us being in 2024 and having more access to things like education and financial gain, you really can decide what that looks like for you. That's kind of what I was mentioning earlier when I said find you a partner who is willing to sit down and work with you on what is it that our relationship is going to need in order to be successful and healthy. Then, based on what you come up with, decide who's going to do what. Who is willing to work with you in order to complete everything that needs to be done in order to be successful and healthy. Moving more into the idea of, does this person like you? I think baseline like comes from attraction. Attraction is like gonna get you through those hard days. You need to be attracted to your partner, okay? Oh, but I like their personality. How you know? How you know when you met that person you like their personality? Oh, but we got to know each other and they wore me down and what? They wore you down? Is that what you want to tell people? Every time I meet a couple that says, oh, I wasn't into him at first, or he's like, oh, I didn't really like her at first, I'm like, oh, okay, so when are you guys breaking up? I don't care what you're telling me right now. What follows that? And then the people who feel comfortable enough to in public tell you that they didn't like their partner originally. That other person listening to that story, please pack up and go. Also, when you are with someone who you find attractive, but they don't find you attractive, or vice versa, there is a power dynamic imbalance in that situation. The person who is attractive obviously sitting higher in the power dynamic. And it doesn't have to come from like a societal standpoint. Like society could feel like that one is more attractive than that one. That doesn't matter. Again, going back to that two-person dynamic, what do we think about our relationship? We need to both be attracted to each other, okay? Doesn't matter what other people think. Are you both attracted to one another? Because if you're not, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And you may stay together, but like, are you happy? Are you happy knowing that that person doesn't find you attractive? Are you happy being with a person that you don't find attractive? I feel like when you're with someone you don't find attractive, the door is always open for you to have like a wandering eye, even if you don't act on it. And why would you want to put someone that you love, quote unquote, through some stress like that? Be attracted to your partner. It's not hard. All right, so let's move on to a surefire test. I want to share with you a surefire test that is going to let you know if that person likes you. This can go for men or this can go for women. If you want to test out, you've just met someone and you want to test out, like, is this person interested in me? We're talking, we're vibing, I'm attracted to them. I want to know if they're attracted to me, if they're into me. This is how you do it. It's called the movie test, okay? What is the movie test, Mackie Speaks? I'm glad you asked. I'll let you know. The movie test is when you're having a conversation with a person, you slip into the conversation the question, what is your favorite movie? Whatever that person answers back, you respond with, oh wow, I've never seen that. The person is then gonna say something along the lines of, what, you've never seen that? We should totally watch it together. Or they're gonna say something like, what, that's crazy, you should watch it. Two different responses, both seemingly normal, but they tell you a lot. The first one, oh my goodness, what? We should totally watch it. Let you know that that person is interested in you. They have now made future plans with you. Even if they're not honed down, they've showed some type of interest in you. I would like to see you again further so that I can introduce you to my favorite movie. If the person then says, oh my gosh, you should totally watch it, they have separated themselves from you, have wanted you to now embark on their favorite movie, of course, but not with them. They're not interested in you, okay? It's a surefire way to not waste your time. And you can do this with other things. Like you can sub out movie for like, what's your favorite vacation spot? Or like, what's your favorite food or favorite restaurant or something like that, and let that person answer and then tell you like, oh, we should totally try that place together, or we should go there. We should check that place out together. I've been meaning to check that place out again recently. We should go. The next time I go, we should go. Or they're going to be like, you should totally visit. You'd love it. They don't like you. Okay? Surefire way. It's the movie test. Apply it. Let me know how it works for you. It works no matter the scenario. And remember we talked about earlier, those excuses, right? Everybody's complex. I know. But don't apply excuses that make you Stupid. Ask the question, hear the answer, accept the answer. When it comes down to whether or not a person likes you or doesn't like you, I think there needs to be some ground rules, some boundaries set in place on both ends of the spectrum. I think that as a woman, if you have boundaries in place and a man respects those boundaries, he likes you, he's showing that he wants to be around you. If he ignores them, he doesn't like you. A man, if you put boundaries and you've been healed and you're not dealing with that toxic stuff, you're not doing that yelling back and forth, blah, 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 and you insert that and she's not listening, she probably don't like you. She doesn't respect you at the very least. So I think as modernized 2024 individuals who have access to education and financial gain, we have more options, have more attractive people at our fingertips through social media. Don't waste your time with people who do not respect who you are and who you've asserted yourself to be. That goes on both ends of the spectrum, men and women. Be who you are and be with who respects you. Amen. Amen. At the same token, if a person isn't responding to you, is not putting an effort to see you, is not being a good communicator, they don't like you. And accept that. Okay, that's my next piece of it. Accept that. Accept that a person does not like you. You don't need to figure out why. You don't need to make them like you. You are beautifully and wonderfully made, men and women. If that person does not want to be with you, they're lost. And not in the sense that like they should crumble, their life should be over, you should evolve and leave them in the dust. Not that way. That's not what I mean when I say they're lost. I just mean that they lost out on you. They lost out on the privilege and the opportunity to get to know such a wonderful individual, and that is okay. Because guess what? The next person or the next 50 people down the road will not miss that. They will get to know you, that you will meet someone who is fully immersed in what you are immersed in, wants to get to know you, wants to have that healthy dynamic with you where you're able to sit down and talk about the relationship needs and the goals and able to fulfill those together. Don't waste your time on a person that is not giving you effort and energy. Move on to where your effort and energy is wanted. That goes on both ends of the spectrum. Women, do not be chasing these men who have proven to you that they don't like you. And you have seen the red flags. We, as women, we have feminine intuition that was not given to us just so that we could talk about it on social media. It's real. Why are you now going to pursue him so much where you are going to end up having a baby for that man? That man that does not like you, that you know does not like you, that all your homegirls have sat down with you and been like, you could do better than this. Why are you going to last so long around this man that you end up conceiving a child with him? Do we not care about the kids? Let's not bring the kids into the bull, okay? Let's not bring the kids into the drama. Don't have no baby with somebody that does not like you. And by that, I mean, don't get pregnant by somebody who does not like you. Don't spend time with people who do not like you. I don't know what our obsession is in 2024, being around people we do not like. You know what it is? These horrible television shows like The Baddies, where girls literally go on the show to just beat each other up. That is not what Bad Girls Club was about, by the way. Fun fact, Bad Girls Club was started on a social experiment to see how women act when they are put in a house together. Women from all different walks of life. Go back to season 1 of Bad Girls Club. That was an experiment, and those women were like real women with real issues, and they wanted to see how do women act with one another when they're put in a house together. They were not, the premise of it was to not put a bunch of women who hate each other in a house and watch them beat each other up. We have let social media derail our lives in the aspect of thinking that this is entertainment. It is not. We should not be hanging around people who do not like us. That is not safe. Think about your spirit. Think about your soul. Why would you want to mix your soul with people who don't like your soul? That's deafening. That's damaging. Get away from people who don't like you. And that goes for men too. Talking to people because you're bored is childish. Stop doing that. Both parties. Stop doing that. Men and women, stop doing that. You should not be talking to people because you're bored. If you're bored, get a hobby. Read a book. Better your life. Go to school. Stop wasting people's time because you're bored. Okay? Weird. You're weird. You're weird for that. And honestly, if a person is bored, I don't want to be with them. I got stuff to do. You don't have nothing to do? Weird. Get something to do. Also, in that same vein, ladies, a man should not be texting you all day. Oh, he only texted me that one time today, and like, I don't know the communicate. He should not be texting you all day. He should be out there figuring out his life so that when he comes into your life, it's not bringing you drama. He should not be texting you all day. You should not be texting him all day. What are you doing? You got access now to go to school, to get financial money, to make yourself a better woman. You can be buying a cookbook, figuring out how to do that. You can be trying to sew. You should be starting a brand. You should go do something. Stop texting. Nobody should text you all day. You're not 16. You're not 16. If you're 16, I'm not talking to you. But if you're not 16, you're not 16. They should not be texting you all day. Okay? This is something that we all have to learn. I had to learn it. Oh my goodness. Like, I don't know. Like, we text, but sometimes we don't text. And then like, that is okay. That's called adulthood. Good morning. We're so glad you finally decided to join us. Nobody should be texting you all day. These are just my tidbits and my tricks. You do not have to take these as law. If you don't agree with what I said, by all means, do what works best for you. Again, it should be what your voice says and what your partner's voice says. Do what's best for you. All right, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me right here on Media EQ, the show where I talk about things I find interesting, and lucky for you, I'm cool enough to record it. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!